Welcome to Fun and Friends. I'm Avalon.
I'm Sabrina.
And I'm Jasmine.
And this is Cuddles.
Cuddles.
Cuddles, the red panda. And welcome to our channel.
Welcome back.
Just a recap of last chapter. Oh my gosh, my brain just went.
We literally just read it.
I know, that's the sad part.
That would happen to me all the time at Vampire Diaries.
Right. So Sophie tried to use a love potion on Tedrose, and in her classes, they said that until they unlock them, they're unable to do spells. So she tried it, which means everybody saw it, and it ricocheted off of Tedrose, and she was made fun of, and she has a big giant F on her now for a whole day to let everybody know that she did something she wasn't supposed to do. And then Agatha snuck over again to go console her friend.
Oh, good old Aggie.
Yep. I did notice, though, she's not calling her Aggie much anymore. She's calling her Agatha more.
Yep. Well, I think that there's a little bit of turmoil there.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that Tedrose keeps
picking Agatha.
Yeah.
Chapter 17, The Empress's New Clothes. News of Sophie's failed love spell slipped across both schools, and by mid-morning everyone waited with bated breath to get a glimpse of her scarlet F. But when Sophie skipped all her morning classes, it was clear she was too ashamed to show her face. You should have heard the things Tedrose called her, Beatrix said to the Evergirls. Sitting in the heap of autumn leaves, Agatha turned her out and looked for Tedrose and the Everboys playing rugby, silver swans glittering across their blue knit sweaters. Across the clearing, never shunned group activities and sat mostly by themselves. Hester glanced up from spells of suffering and read Agatha's eyes with a shrug, as if Sophie's whereabouts were the least of her concerns. Now, Teddykins, it's not her fault, Beatrix blathered loudly. The poor girl thinks she's one of us. We should feel sorry for someone so pathetic. Her eyes bulged. Agatha saw why. Sophie sashayed into the clearing, dumpy black sack refashioned into a strapless bodice dress, F shimmering over her chest with devil red sequins. She cut her blonde hair even shorter and slicked it back into a shiny bob. Her face was painted geisha white, her eyelids pink, her lips vermilion, and her glass shoes had not only been repaired, but heels even taller, which together with extremely short dress, showed off creamy legs. From the shadows, she swanned into the sunlight, exploded off her glitter dust skin, bathing her in a heavenly glow. Sophie strutted past Hester, who dropped her book, past Everboys, who dropped their ball, and glided right up to Hort. Let's do lunch, she said, sweeping him away like a hostage. Across the field, Tedro's sword fell out of his sheath. He saw Beatrix glaring and put it back. During Surviving Fairy Tales, Sophie ignored Yerba's lecture on leaving useful trails and spent the entire class cozying up to Hort and filling her never pail with roots herbs from the Blue Forest. What are you doing? Hissed Agatha. Can you believe it, Aggie, darling? They have beetroot, real willow bark, lemonwood, and everything else I need to make old potions and creams. Soon I'll have my real self. This isn't real, Sophie. The real Sophie I had in mind. Excuse me, I'm just following your rules. Flaunt my assets, which are many, as you can see. Speak through actions. Have I said a word to Tedros? No, haven't. Unless we forget.
I do applaud her on her confidence, though.
Right? Oh my God.
You
Go,
girl. You go, honey.
Parade competing suitors. Do you know what it takes to survive lunch with Hort? To nuzzle that rodent every time I see Tedros looking? Eucalyptus, Agatha. I numb my nose with eucalyptus. But in the end, you were right.
I'm gonna go Google this. Can you really numb your nose with eucalyptus?
Yeah.
Listen, I was? You remind me what's important. Sophie nodded to Tedros and the Everboys ogling her across the thicket. It doesn't matter if you're a never, ever, or whatever. In the end, the fairest of them all wins. She glossed her lips and gave them a smack. You'll see. I love how you did your little smack up there.
It reminds me of Ursula when she like
Yeah. On the
the-
shell lipstick.
yes.
Yeah.
I think it was a living thing.
It was. Look,
Just
urchin.
Oh, poor little soul.
You'll see. He'll ask me to the ball before the week's up, and you'll get your precious kiss. So no more negativity, darling. It gives me a headache. Now, where's that worthless Hort? I told
Sounds
him.
like someone we know.
I told him to stay by me at all times. She swept away, leaving
He's
Agatha
like running for
speechless.
his life.
Mhm.
Plot twist. That's how Cupid gets out. He was running to go hide somewhere.
Yep.
In the school for evil, Nevers skulked through supper, knowing they had full night of study ahead of them. With spells cast set to begin, the teachers' tests were based less on talent now and more on the tedious recall. For the last day alone, they had to memorize 80 murder schemes for Lady Lesso's first challenge, giant commands for henchmen, and flower ground map for Satyr's geology exam.
Makes any high schooler watching this realize you ain't got nothing to complain about because you didn't have to memorize 80
Overnight.
overnight.
I mean, we had to memorize the periodic table. I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not
That took a-
overnight.
I mean, it was like a week.
If you practiced the song on YouTube, you were golden. I still have half of it memorized.
I don't remember
unfortunately.
I only remember like the first two.
There was
Helium,
a YouTube song.
lithium, beryllium, and then I'm done.
Okay, nope.
Yep.
Say the book before I get that stuck in my head, please.
How?
It's there.
How will he correct them? Hester groused. He can't even see. At curfew, Hester, Dot, and Annabelle trudged back from the common room, piled high with books, only to find their room turned into a laboratory. Dozens of bright-colored potions bubbled over open flames. Vials of creams, soaps, and dyes littered the shelves. A mess of dried leaves, herbs, flour blanketed the three beds, and in the center of it all sat Sophie, buried under sequins, ribbons, and fabric, testing new concoctions on patches of skin. My God, she is a witch! Annabelle gasped. Sophie held up the recipe book for good looks. I stole it from an Ever at lunch. Shouldn't you be studying for challenges? Dot asked. Beauty is a full-time job, sighed Sophie, lathering herself with a bright green balm. And you wonder why Evers are so slow, Hester said. Sophie is back, darlings, and she is just getting started, Sophie mooned. Love is my challenge now. And indeed, though Sophie placed near the bottom of all three challenges the next day, she placed first in attention, arriving at lunch in her black uniform, remolded into gauzing slip black toga dress, slashed with blue orchids. Her heels were a full inch taller, her face shimmering bronze, her eyeshadow provocative periwinkle, her eyes delicious crimson, and the glittering F on the front of her dress was now complemented by sequins on the back that read, "Is for fabulous." This can't be allowed, Beatrix whined over the drooling boys. But she was wearing her uniform, Sophie insisted to the teachers. While usually fierce wolves looked just as odd as the boys. Dot swore one even winked at Sophie when it filled her lunch pail.
Wow.
She's making a mockery of villainy, Hester fumed, black eyes flaying Sophie
No,
across
she's
the
just
clearing.
being hot. And they're
You
just
can be
jealous.
a pretty villain.
Yeah.
I mean, Cruella
Yeah.
DeVille was all about love.
I always think of the
Maleficent
evil
was
queen.
pretty.
Well, I was thinking
An
of the
evil
evil queen.
queen,
She
yeah.
wanted to be the fairest of them all. That's just kind of where
Maybe
reminds
that's
me
what
of
she
this.
is.
Maybe.
Maybe that's her fairy tale.
They should lock her in the doom room permanently. Beast still missing, Annabelle yawned. Whatever spooked him must have been pretty bad. The next day, Sophie flunked all of her challenges again and yet somehow avoided failing out of school, though she was clearly worse. Each time she saw 19 pop instead of 20. I'm just too lovable to fail, she preened to mystified classmates. During forest groups, Sophie ignored Yerba's lecture on scarecrow survival and scribbled busily in her notebook, while Agatha glowered at her black baby doll dress, pink lollipop sequins spelling F is for fun. Name something else that starts with F, Sophie whispered. I'm trying to listen, and so should you, since you will be here forever. F is for forever. A bit heady. What about flirty or fetching? Or futile? He hasn't even talked to you yet. F is for faith, Sophie said, which I thought you had in me. Agatha grumbled for the rest of class, but Sophie almost made her a believer when she arrived the next day in a belly-bearing black halter poofed miniskirt.
Dang, girl.
Spiky pixie hairdo and heels dyed hot pink. The Ever boys spent lunch goggling at her between slobbery bites of beef, and yet, even though Sophie could see Tedros sneak peeks of her legs, grit his teeth each time she passed, and sweat when she got too close, he still didn't talk to her. It's enough, Agatha said, accosting her after Yerba's class. You need better assets. Sophie looked down at herself. I think my assets are quite sufficient. Deeper assets, you idiot. Something inside. Look compassion or charity or kindness. Sophie blinked. Sometimes you make wonderful sense, Aggie. He needs to see how good I truly am. She sees reason, Agatha exhaled. Now hurry. If he asks someone else to the ball, we'll never go home. Agatha proposed that Sophie sneak Tedros love limericks filled with clever rhymes or leave him secret presents that revealed depth and thought. Tried and true strategies, both were outlined in Winning Your Prince. Sophie listened, nodding to all of this, so when Agatha arrived at lunch the next day, she expected to read a first draft of a verse or inspect a handmade gift. Instead, she arrived to find a group of 20 Never girls crowded in a corner of a clearing. What's going on over there? Agatha asked, Hester and Annadel both studying the tree shade. She said it was your idea, Hester sneered, eyes on her book. Bad idea, Annadel said. So bad, we don't even want to talk to you. Confused, Agatha turned to the gathering. A familiar voice rang from the center. Fabulous darlings, but just a little less cream. Agatha's chest tightened. She forced her way through the swarm of nevers until she reached the center and almost died from shock. Sophie sat on a tree stump, a wooden sign hanging from the branch above her. Lunchtime with Sophie, where beauty meets charity. Today's topic, beetroot for blemish banishment. Say that 5 times fast.
Nope.
Beetroot for blemish banishment?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
We're good.
We're good.
All around her, Never girls were squeezing sticky beetroot cream onto their pimples and warts. Now remember, girls, just because you're ugly doesn't mean you can't be presentable, Sophie perched. I'm bringing my roommates tomorrow. Arachne whispered to a green-skinned Mona. Agatha gasped, flabbergasted. Then she saw someone sneak away. Dot? Dot turned meekly, smothered in red cream. Oh, hello. I just, I thought I would check up on, to see in case. She looked at her feet. Don't tell Hester. Agatha had no idea what any of this had to do with winning Tedros' love, but when she tried to corner Sophie after, 3 Never girls shoved in front of her to ask Sophie about picking the best beats. Agatha didn't get a chance in forest groups either because Yerba separated Evers and Nevers. You will get used to seeing each other as an enemy. The first trial by tail is in 3 weeks, the gnome said. Now, for your trial, you'll need a few basic spells. There is no one way to do magic, of course. Some spells require visualization, some incantations, other hand flicks, foot taps, magic wands, numeric codes, or even partners. Yet it is one common to do all spells. From his pocket, he pulled out a shiny silver key and bit shaped like a swan. Evers, right hand, please. Baffled, Evers looked at each other and held out their hands. You go first. Agatha frowned as she grabbed her hand, then the second finger. Wait, what are you going to? Yerba magically plunged the swan key into Agatha's fingertip. The skin went see-through, and the swan sank past tissue, veins, blood, and attached to her bone. The gnome turned the bow and
so cringing right now.
And her bone painlessly rotated in a full circle. Her fingertip glowed bright orange for a moment, then dulled as Yerba withdrew the key. Bewildered, Agatha stared at her finger as Yerba unlocked the rest of the Evers and Nevers, including Sophie, who barely glanced up from scribbling in her notebook.
Like
Magic
getting your nails done.
There you go.
Magic follows feeling. That's the only rule, said Gnome when he was finished. When your finger glows, it means you have summoned enough emotion, enough purpose to perform a spell. You can only do magic when you have a deep need and want. Students squinted at their fingers, feeling coaxing with all their might, and soon fingertips began to flicker, each person's a unique color. But like a wand, finger glow is just the training wheel. Yerba warned. In the woods, you will look like a nincompoop if you light up every time you cast a spell. We will relock your glow once you have control. He grimaced at Hort, uselessly thrusting his finger at rocks, trying to make something happen. If ever. The gnome turned back to the group. In the first year, you will learn only 3 types of spells: water control, weather manipulation, and mortification, which both plant and animal. Today we will begin with the last, he said to excited Twitters. A simple visualization spell will be highly effective for escaping enemies. Now, since your clothes won't fit after you mortify, it's easier if you're not wearing any. The students stopped tittering.
Naked, huh?
Yeah, naked. Oh, Tedros.
Wow.
But I suppose we'll do, Yuba said. Who wants to go first? Everyone raised their hand except 2. Agatha, who was praying now more than ever that Sophie had to plan to get home, and Sophie, who was too busy writing her next lecture. Bath is not a 4-letter word to care about any of this. By the third day on her stump, Sophie had 30 freshly bathed nether girls attend Just Say No to Drab. Now Professor Manley says a never must be ugly. That ugly means uniqueness, power, freedom. So here's my question to Professor Manley. How do you expect us to feel unique, empowered, or free in this? She roared, waving a dumpy black robes like an enemy flag. The cheer was so loud that across the clearing, Beatrix's pen slipped and ruined her ball gown sketch. That's just mentally ill, Sophie, Beatrix snapped. Still looking for a ball date, is she? Murmured Tedros, aiming his next horseshoe throw. Worse, now she's trying to convince the Nevers that they're not losers. Tedros missed his shot in surprise. Agatha didn't even try to see Sophie after lunch, with Never girls mobbing for style advice. She didn't try the next day either when an impromptu shoe burning erupted after Sophie's lecture on Abandon All Ye Clumps. The wolves ran around, whipping students back into the tower, and she clearly didn't try the next when every Never girl showed up for Sophie's talk on fitness for the unfit, except Hester and Anderdale, who cornered Agatha after lunch. This idea keeps getting more rotten, Anderdale said. So rotten, we're not your friends anymore. Boys, balls, kisses, all your problem now, Hester snarled, demon twitching on her neck. As long as it doesn't mess with me winning captain, I won't give a hug's behind what you 2 do. Got it? The next day, Agatha hid under the tunnel of trees, waited for a sound of high heels on dead leaves, and tackled Sophie with a flying leap. What is it today? Cuticle creams, white teeth whiteners, more abdominal exercises? If you want to talk to me, you can wait in line with everyone else, Sophie yelled. Maleficent makeovers, black is the new black, yoga for villains. Do you want to die here? You said show them something deeper. Isn't this compassion? Isn't this kindness and wisdom? I'm helping those who can't help themselves. Excuse me, Saint Teresa, but your goal here is Tedros. How is this accomplishing anything? Accomplishment is such a vague word, but I would consider that an accomplishment, wouldn't you? Agatha followed Sophie's look out the tunnel. The crowd in front of her stump was 100 Nevers deep. Only there was one hovering in black, who didn't look like the rest, a golden-haired boy in a rugby sweater. Agatha released Sophie in shock. You should come, Sophie called as she flounced out of the tunnel. Today is about dry, damaged hair. In front of the stump, Arachne's one eye glowered at Tedros. Why is Prince Pretty Face here? Yeah, back to your side, Everboy, Mona sipped, pelting him with tree mold. More Never girls started to hackle him, and Tedros shrank back anxiously. You okay? Okay. Okay. She wasn't used to being unpopular. He wasn't used to being unpopular, but just as he was booed away, "We welcome everyone," Sophie admonished as she swept to her stump. Tedros came back every day that week. He told his mates he wanted to see what Sophie was wearing, but there was more to it. With each new day, he watched her teach misshapen villains how to straighten out their haunches, hold eye contact, and enunciate their words. He watched Neverboy skeptically skulk on the fringes at first, only to soon badger Sophie for advice on sleeping better, masking body odor, and managing their tempers. At first, the wolves yawned through the assemblies, but Tedros could see them listening more and more. Never showed up for Sophie's lectures. Soon, the villains would debate her prescriptions on dinner and over dredgy tea in the common rooms. They started to sit together at lunch, defend each other in class, and stopped making jokes about their losing streak. After the first time in 200 years, evil had hope, all because of one girl. By the end of the week, Tedros had a seat in the front row. "It's working," Agatha gushed as she walked Sophie to the tunnel of trees. "He might say he loves you. He might kiss you this week. We're going home. What's the topic?" "Eating your words," Sophie said, swishing her head. At lunch the next day, Agatha stood in the front of the line for a basket of artichoke and olive tardines, dreaming what heroes' welcome she and Sophie would get when they returned home. Galvadon would erect tall statues of them in the square, feed them with sermons, stage a musical about their lives, and teach school children about two girls who saved them from the curse. Her mother would have 1,000 new patients, reap her fresh trout every day, and she would have her picture in the town scroll, and everyone who dared to mock her would now grovel at her. What a joke. Agatha turned to Beatrix, who was watching Nevers throng around Sophie in a revealing black sari and sharp-heeled fur booties for a lecture on how to be the best at everything, like me. "As if she's the best," Bellatrix snorted. "I think she's the best Never I've ever seen," a voice said behind her. Beatrix twirled to Tedros. "Is she now, Teddy? And I think it's all a big fairy tale." Tedros followed her eyes at the ranking boards smothering in a soft sunlight and the blue forest gates. On the Nevers board, Sophie's name hung off the bottom, pecked by holes by robins. Number 120 out of number 120. "The Empress's new clothes, to be precise," Beatrix said and treaded away. Tedros didn't go see Sophie that day. Word spread that he had found it and watched Nevers pin their hopes on the worst girl in school. The next day, Sophie showed up in a deserted stump. The wooden sign had been defaced. Lunchtime with Sophie, where beauty meets stupidity. Today's topic: beetroot for blemish banishment.
Oh, that's just a picture of the old one, or someone messed with it?
They messed with it.
Gotcha.
"I told you to pay attention," Aggie shouted as they waited in pouring rain for Yerba's class for wolves to open the gates. "Between sewing new outfits, brewing new makeup, and preparing new lectures, I can't worry about class," Sophie sobbed under a black parasol. "I have fans to think about." "Of which you now have none," Agatha yelled. She could see Hester smirking from her in the Group 6 huddle. "3 bottom place rankings and you fail, Sophie. I don't know how you've survived this long." "They don't let me fail, no matter how bad I am. Why do you think I stopped studying?" Agatha tried to make sense of this, but couldn't focus, her fingertip burning. Ever since Yerba unlocked it, it had been glowing whenever she was angry, as if roaring to do a spell. "How did you get all those high ranks before?" she said, hiding a hand in her pocket. "That was before they made us read. I mean, do I look like I know how to poison a comb, how to pluck toad eyes, or how to say, 'May I cross your bridge,' in Troll? Here I am trying to improve these villains, and you want me to memorize a recipe for children noodle soup?" "Agatha, did you know that to boil a child, you have to wrap them in parchment first? Otherwise, they won't be cooked properly and might wake up in your pot. Is that how you want me to learn how to hurt and kill? How to be a witch?" "Listen, you need to win back respect." "Through intentional evil? No, I shan't." Then we're doomed, Agatha snapped. Sophie exhaled angrily and turned away. Suddenly her expression changed. What in the... She gawked at the Evers ranking board tacked to the gates. Number 1, Tedros of Camelot. 2, Beatrix of Jaunt Jolie. Raina of Pasha Dunes, and Agatha of the Woods Beyond. But, you're you, Sophie cried. And I do my homework, Agatha barked. I don't want to learn dove calls or practice fainting or sew handkerchiefs, but I'll do whatever it takes to get us home. But Sophie wasn't listening. A naughty grin spread across her face. Agatha crossed her arms. No way. First of all, teachers will catch us. You'll love my curses homework. It's all about tricking princes and you hate boys. Second, your roommates will tell on you. And you'll love my uglification homework. We're learning how to scare children and you hate children. If Tedros finds out you're dead and look at your finger, it glows when you're upset. I can't do that. It's a fluke. Look, it's even brighter now. You were born to be a vil. Agatha stomped. We're not cheating. Sophie fell silent. Wolves unlocked the Blue Forest gates and students surged onto the grounds, or into the tunnels. Neither Sophie or Agatha moved. My roommates say I'm 100% evil, Sophie said softly. But you know the truth? I don't know how to be evil. Not even 1%. So please, don't ask me to go against my own soul, Agatha. I can't. Her voice caught. I just can't. She left Agatha under the umbrella. As Sophie joined the herd, the storm rised out of oh my goodness. The storm rised the sheen out of her hair and the glitter off of her skin until Agatha couldn't tell her from the other villains. Guilt flushed through her. Burning her finger bright as the sun, she hadn't told Sophie the truth. She had the same idea to do Sophie's evil work and squashed it, not because she was afraid to get caught. She was afraid she might like it. All 100%. That night, Sophie had nightmares. Tedros kissing goblins, Agatha crawling from a well with cupid wings, Hester's demon chasing her through sewers until a bear rose out of the dark water, bloody hands snatching at it, and Sophie lunged past him and locked herself in the doom room. Only there was a new torturer waiting, her father in a wolf mask. Sophie jolted awake. Her roommates were fast asleep. She sighed, nestled into her pillow, and bolted back up. There was a cockroach on her nose. She started to scream. It's me, the roach hissed. Sophie closed her eyes. Wake up, wake up, wake up. She opened them. It was still there. What's my favorite muffin? She wheezed. Flourless blueberry bran, the roach spat. Any more stupid questions? Sophie picked the bug off of her nose. It had the same bulging eyes and sullen cheeks. How in the world? More gratification. We've been learning it for 2 weeks. Meet me in the common room. Agatha and the cockroach glared back as it skittered out the door. And bring your books.
So Agatha just turned herself into a cockroach
to visit Sophie and do her homework.
Jeez.
Even though she said she didn't want to.
Because she's afraid she'll like it.
Yep. She might be truly evil.
Alright guys, let us know what you think. Is Agatha gonna be evil? Will Sophie actually get to go to the good side? Or at least fall in love with Tedros?
Someday my prince will come.
Alright.
Until then, we'll see you then.
We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.